Okay, let's talk about Mark Snowden here. He's what, 29? Most likely he is a young prodigy, but he's not very high up on the totem pole. He did some system analysis work for the CIA. He's worked for the NSA, maybe. We have to be very careful here about disinformation. Probably the guy is for real because the story broke, and the story is damaging. You understand? Bottom line is, my opinion is, if this guy really was uber damaging, or the high ups thought he was uber damaging, he would not be talking right now. You understand? The higher ups are thinking that they can handle all of this with damage control, and they might be right. The masses fall right back to sleep. I mean, Rumsfeld on September 10th announced how many trillions of dollars that were missing, and then, oh, well, collective American ADD, we all forgot about it when Islamic terrorists, attacked us with box cutters. So, I won't put it past the sickos above to just make us fall asleep again, But I'm proud of this kid if he's for real. I'm glad that he, despite on an entry-level position here, I'm sure despite massive threats to his life, I'm sure he looks like an intelligent kid. He's 29. That he knows he could be turned off like a switch. So I want to see this.
When you're in positions of privileged access, like a systems administrator for these sort of intelligence community agencies, you're exposed to a lot more information on a broader scale than the average employee. And because of that, you see things that may be disturbing, but over the course of a normal person's career, you'd only see one or two of these instances. When you see everything, you see them on a more frequent basis. And you recognize that some of these things are actually abuses. And when you talk to people about them, in a place like this where this is the normal state of business, people tend not to take them very seriously and move on from
I think he's legit, folks. I think he's legit.
them. But over time, that
What I'm hoping here, and then I'll shut up for a minute. What I'm hoping here is that this kid will get others to come clean about this as well. And I want to start a domino effect.
awareness of wrongdoing sort of builds up, and you feel compelled to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the more you're ignored, the more you're told it's not a problem, until eventually you realize that these things need to be determined by the public, not by somebody who was simply hired by the government.
Talk a little bit about how the American
you were hired by the
actually
government,
functions. Does it target the actions of Americans?
NSA and the intelligence community in general is focused on getting intelligence wherever it can, by any means possible, that it believes on the grounds of sort of a self-certification that they serve the national interest. Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically. And to do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default.
Okay. Well, I think
Collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time, simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends.
I think the reason why he hasn't been killed is because to wake people for a while now, we've known they were doing this since the creation. Well, almost not since the creation, but once Google hit it, we know that we were being monitored full time. And this is nothing new to most of us who are awake. But to the sleepers, this is all news, and this is good. I want to be careful here to make certain everybody knows this. Had the NSA not attacked journalists, you and I would know dick about this. Do you understand me? It's only because the spoiled media brats were feeling, oh, well, I mean, how dare they go against our egos, that this got out. And this did not get out in the American press. This only got out in the English press. So I'm starting to also think about possible Rothschild versus Rockefeller. I think there might be a street fight going on here. Okay? But regardless, there are serious faults and cracks in the cabal.
How they may be intending to target someone associated with a foreign government or someone that they suspect of terrorism, they're collecting your communications to do so. Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector anywhere. Where those communications will be
now,
picked up.
An analyst. Do you know how low on the pecking order the analyst is? This is incredible power, and it's frighteningly sick.
Depends on the range of the sensor networks and the authorities that that analyst is empowered with. Not all analysts have the ability to target everything, but I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
One of the extraordinary parts about this episode is that usually whistleblowers do what they do anonymously and take steps to remain anonymous for as long as they can, which they hope often is forever.
Man knows that the best way to survive the cabal is to hide in plain sight. Okay? Dr. Greer knows the exact same thing.
You, on the other hand, have decided to do the opposite, which is to declare yourself openly as the person behind these disclosures. Why did you choose to do that?
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are
as I would be.
Outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy. And if you do that in secret consistently, as the government does when it wants to benefit from a secret action that it took, it'll kind of give its officials a mandate to go, hey, tell the press about this thing and that thing, so the public is on our side. But they rarely, if ever, do that when an abuse occurs. That falls to individual citizens, but they're typically maligned. It becomes a thing of these people are against the country, they're against the government, but I'm not. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth.
Well, the NRO has had this, the three-team system since the 50s. Do you know about the three-team system? First team, somebody has done or seen something they shouldn't have. They come in there, they gather information in an interview, and then they inform the individual that what they did was maybe a little bit wrong, but what they thought they saw wasn't what they saw, and yeah, I'm sorry, you're mistaken. Yeah. The second team, if that doesn't work, destroys the individual's credibility, gets them fired. All of a sudden, the affair that the person had 10 years ago, when he and the wife were on the skids, and they got back together again, oh, well, that just pops up. Either that or they'll just make up information and lie. They'll freeze your accounts. They'll audit you. They will absolutely ostracize and destroy you. If that doesn't work, Team 3 comes in, and Team 3 usually involves a 7.62 millimeter bullet. Okay?
This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
Have you given thought to what it is that the U.S. government's response to your conduct is in terms of what they might say about you, how they might try to depict you, what they might try to do to you?
Yeah, I could be, rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of their third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations, or they could pay off the triads. Any of their agents or assets. We've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be. You can't come forward against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and be completely free from risk, because they're such powerful adversaries that no one can meaningfully oppose them.
He's got perspective. This isn't some geek who wanted out. This is good stuff. Remember, these intelligence agencies pretty much are the strong arm of, well, the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. Because from their information, they feed it to the open and believing militaries around the world. And they take action based on imminent threat. All right? So all of you out there who are saying, oh yeah, the military is the enemy. No, it isn't. It's the TSA. It's the CIA. It's the NRO. It's the NSA. Okay? All right. I just want to make that clear.
They want to get you, they'll get you in time. But at the same time, you have to make a determination about what it is that's important to you. And if living unfreely but comfortably is something you're willing to accept, and I think many of us are, it's the human nature. You can get up every day, you can go to work, you can collect your large paycheck for relatively little work against the public interest, and go to sleep at night after watching your shows. But if you realize that that's the world that you helped create, and it's going to get worse with the next generation and the next generation who extend the capabilities of this sort of architecture of oppression, you realize that you might be willing to accept any risk. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as the public gets to make their own decisions about how that's applied.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
The false flags
we are currently sitting in a room in Hong Kong, which is where we are because you traveled here. Talk a little bit about why it is that you came here, and specifically.
Too. Benjamin Fulford immediately went to Asia as well to save his life. The Benjamin Fulford attacks out there are hilarious. I know some of his videos are damn funny as well. The guy, in terms of his credibility, what he can look like at times, I mean, he's kind of done it to himself in terms of people saying, oh, look, this guy's nuts. But these people always flee to Asia. And I'm beginning to think that's where the other side might be. We'll see.
Typically, there are going to be people who will speculate that what you really intend to do is to defect to the country that many see as the #1 rival of the United States, which is China, and that what you're really doing is essentially seeking to aid an enemy of the United States with which you intend to seek asylum. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's a couple assertions in those arguments that are sort of embedded in the questioning of the choice of Hong Kong. The first is that China is an enemy of the United States. It's not. I mean, there are conflicts between the United States government and the Chinese PRC government. But the peoples inherently, we don't care. We trade with each other freely. We're not at war. We're not in armed conflict, and we're not trying to be. We're the largest trading partners out there for each other. Additionally, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of free speech. People think, oh, China, great firewall. Mainland China does have significant restrictions on free speech, but the people of Hong Kong have a long tradition of.
He talked to a former CIA or Special Forces security consultant, or a former Delta operator, probably, who knows, and said, hey, kid, you want to blend in? You want to disappear? You want to have all the avenues of escape ready? Go to Hong Kong. Okay, but he can't say this.
Protesting in the streets, making their views known. The internet is not filtered here, no more so than any other Western government. And I believe that the Hong Kong government is actually independent in relation to a lot of other leading Western governments.
If your motive had been to harm the United States and help its enemies, or if your motive had been personal material gain, were there things that you could have done with these documents to advance those goals that you didn't end up doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market to Russia. They always have an open door, as we do. I had access to, the full rosters of everyone working at the NSA, the entire intelligence community,
Nice.
And undercover assets all around the world, the locations of every state.
You had access to it. For Christ's sake, kid, tell me you made copies of it. Because that is A, how you're going to live, how you're going to survive, and B, holy cow, could a possible future resistance movement use those? Tell me you made copies.
We have what their missions are and so forth. If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., you
Shit.
could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon. But that's not my intention. And I think for anyone making that argument, they need to think, if they were in my position, and you live a privileged life, you're living in Hawaii in paradise and making a ton of money, what would it take to make you leave everything behind? The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests.
Screw the representatives. You got to do this independently.
And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only
He might have gotten out not because of a righteous sense of patriotism. He might have gotten out because he sees it's so effing bad he doesn't want to live in the United States any longer. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with selfish motives here, man. Don't come down on him for that. People are thinking about it. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy. Even our agreements with other sovereign governments, we consider that to be a stipulation of policy rather than a stipulation of law. And because of that, a new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, you know, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority, we need more power, and there will be nothing the people can do at that point to oppose it. And it'll be turnkey tyranny.
What do y'all think? I think it's right. I think what he said was great.
I also don't think that his motives were simply protection of freedom here in the United States. I think he was scared to death. I think if they were, his true motives were to protect the freedoms of the United States, he would have made the damn copies. Of course, I think the kid came out of absolute fear. And if he didn't make copies, it was the stupidest thing he could have done. By making copies, I mean making copies of names and facilities. Because that's your trump card, kid. As long as you have that, maybe you did. But if he did, the only defense in that would be to say outwardly, yes, I did make copies. And if they try to kill me or my family, I'll release it. Dead man's trigger. I don't think the kid was smart enough to do that. I think he was so scared, he got out and thought, oh, this will be enough and they'll leave me alone. And he probably will be right because, like I said, this is information that a lot of us already know about. And I think the NSA will control it through damage control. I think that the NSA and the cabal sees this as a no story. And I think it's all up to you and me. But saying this kid patriotically did this to defend the United States, no, it's bullshit. He's scared enough and he wanted to save his own skin. And can you blame him? I don't at all. But son, you could have done so much more though. So what are we going to see now? You're going to see the three teams. They are going to discredit this guy big time. Oh my God, imagine the 50s. All you have to say, the guy was potentially a communist. Well, that's it. They're going to just smear this guy. They're going to say he never even worked at the NSA. They'll say he was a janitor. They'll make false credentials. Hell, they can even MK Ultra his damn family and make him speak on camera. I mean, I don't know. If they please don't see inaction on behalf of the cabal as, oh, we got him. No. They'll take action if there's a threat. If there is no action taken, if there is no smearing, if the guy doesn't get offed, if his family all of a sudden doesn't get offed, then he wasn't much of a threat to the cabal. Like I said, it's information that truthers already know all about, and we're trying to wake up the masses. So like I said, it's up to us to keep the ball rolling.